We are cutting into your programming, bringing you today's update on the coronavirus as well as Tropical Storm Cristobal. Here's the governor now.
Beginning of a special session of public health emergency, a tropical storm, and some protests and demonstrations that, thank goodness, thus far have been almost exclusively lawful and peaceful and nonviolent and so forth. I have with me today Dr. Alex Bu, as normal. Colonel Wascom was supposed to be here from GOSEP in case there were questions about Tropical Storm Cristobal and so forth. He may or may not make it up. He's testifying downstairs in the Senate Finance Committee. And then I have Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, who will make some comments at the end of my briefing. Since my last briefing, this tropical disturbance at the time, I guess it was, that we were watching is actually developed into Tropical Storm Cristobal. You see it there, and it looks like it has its sights set on Louisiana. And all of the modeling seems to agree, as of right now anyway. This morning I received a briefing from the National Weather Service. Obviously it is still too early to know exactly where that storm is going to go and exactly when it will arrive, and when it arrives what it will be packing. But what we anticipate is that it's going to be a very severe weather event for Louisiana. And this will be compounded by the fact that between now and then, unrelated to Cristobal, we're going to have very substantial rainfall from afternoon thunderstorms. So the ground will be saturated before it arrives. We're looking at sometime on Sunday or Monday for the arrival of the tropical storm. Most models have it centered on the central coastline of Louisiana, somewhere in the Atchafalaya River Vermilion Bay area. And what that leaves is southeast Louisiana, including Baton Rouge and New Orleans, on the east side of the storm, which typically receives the heaviest rain. And of course it could shift east or west, making some changes in that. I don't want anybody to focus too much on the specific track, but rather the cone, because that cone clearly shows you that everything in Louisiana will likely be impacted. Obviously, the further south, the more the impact that you can expect. The most reasonable worst-case scenario that we've been told by the National Weather Service is to expect 10 to 15 inches of rain on the east side of the storm. That's going to fall over a 48-hour period. That's a lot of rain. That's especially a lot of rain if it's falling on ground that's already saturated from several days' worth of tropical storms. Further west could be 8 to 10 inches of rain, and literally it just sort of depends on exactly where the center of the storm is, but 8 to 10 inches could be what you see in Baton Rouge, or it may actually be further west and so forth. We should know more, obviously, before the storm makes landfall. I do want everybody to notice that the National Weather Service has already issued flash flood warnings through Tuesday of next week in some areas of Louisiana. Part of the good news is river levels are much lower than they were last year when we had the hurricane, and so there's more capacity for rainfall to be taken into those rivers before you have substantial flooding activity. And certainly we don't have any threat to levee overtopping or anything like that along the Mississippi River. One of the challenges we're going to face will be with wind. Typically you don't think of tropical storms producing enough wind to have heavy damage, but when you have saturated ground, it doesn't take as much wind in order to cause real problems with trees and utility poles and things like that. So the wind that we expect could be 60 miles an hour or so, and obviously this could get refined as we move forward. Obviously, storm surge along the coast is one of those things that we're looking at very hard and preparing for. We are tracking 678 gates in the coastal zone. 157 of those are currently closed. Every gate in the flood control structures in the state of Louisiana across the coastal zone have been exercised with respect to their operation criteria as part of our preparation for hurricane season. Everyone should be following the news and the weather updates from their local officials. Now is the time to prepare. Put yourself and your family in the best possible position to ride out the first 72 hours of this storm, and make sure that you get a game plan. You can go to gettagameplan.org. It is obviously not too late to do that. It's really important that you do, and it's also important that you take notice of the differences between preparing for a natural disaster when we have the public health emergency for COVID-19, because there are some differences. And obviously there are a lot of similarities too. So make sure that you're stocked with essential supplies like batteries, water, cell phone chargers, necessary prescriptions, masks, or other facial coverings, hand sanitizer. The mitigation measures that we have in place remain critically important and should be taken into account as you make your hurricane preparations. And we transitioned to phase 2 on Friday, just ahead of Cristobal's arrival. Have a plan if you're instructed to evacuate. If you have pets, have a plan for sheltering them as well. And make sure you're staying informed through the weather and emergency alerts, local media, paying attention to the National Weather Service, local forecasts, but also local elected officials as well, and the offices of emergency preparedness around the state of Louisiana. Part of getting a game plan is pre-registering for Disaster SNAP. Now, I'm not announcing that we have this Disaster SNAP available, but you can pre-register. And if we have a disaster and DSNAP is authorized by the federal government, if you're pre-registered, it's that much faster for you to receive those benefits. If you have already pre-registered for DSNAP, you're going to need to register again because we have a new vendor. Now, if you're receiving SNAP, you don't need to do this. But if you are not receiving SNAP and you want to pre-register for DSNAP, you need to do that even if you've already pre-registered before. And it may not be a vendor that changed. It may be new technology that has been upgraded that's causing that. You can register for DSNAP or get more information at dcfs.la.gov/DSNAP. That is dcfs.la.gov/DSNAP. Now, let's transition to today's COVID-19 briefing. We are reporting today 387 new cases for a total of 41,133 since the inception of the public health emergency. There are 35 new reported deaths today, which bring that total to 2,759, sadly. We have 617 COVID-19 patients who are hospitalized across the state of Louisiana. That is the lowest number since about March the 22nd. 86 of these patients are on ventilators. So those numbers are certainly trending in the right direction. In the aggregate, we have tested 402,087 individuals for COVID-19. 4.3% of the tests from today were positive, and if you look at all tests that have been administered, we're at 10.2%. We've told you before that you really want to get below 10%. We're certainly tracking in that direction. Early on, our average positivity rate was 30 to 40%. It hasn't been above 10% in about 3 weeks. And we've been averaging closer to 5% lately. And so we're getting that number down where we would like for it to be. As we prepare to move into phase 2 on Friday, please anticipate the impact of the tropical storm and continue to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I know that with all of this coming at once, with other things that are happening as well, there may be a tendency to feel overwhelmed. That is understandable. Please know that there is help and that there is hope. ConquerCovid19.la, that's ConquerCovid19.la, is a comprehensive website with resources and tips to help anyone stay calm and reduce stress. This is for children and families, first responders, healthcare professionals, business leaders. You can obviously also call the COVID hotline to speak with trained and compassionate counselors at 1-866-310-7977. So I'm going to yield the podium now to the Lieutenant Governor. He's got some prepared remarks. I'm going to ask that if you have questions for the Lieutenant Governor that you ask them while he's at the podium, and then I will come back when he completes his portion and take questions from you as well. And obviously Dr. Bu is here to take questions related to testing and cases and so forth. Billy?
Thank you, Governor. And Governor, I want to thank you and your team and all the Reliance Committee and task force members for their efforts in getting us to Phase 2, where we finally can welcome visitors back to Louisiana, and most importantly, Louisianans, for following the rules and helping us see the numbers continue to decline. This Friday, we will open all of our welcome centers to visitors coming back to Louisiana. We will limit the lobbies to 10 people at a time. We've got a plan to continue to clean those facilities many times a day. All of our staff will be taking all the measures, wearing masks. We will also be giving out Louisiana Feed Your Soul masks to all visitors and ask them too to follow the rules here in Louisiana so we can continue to see those numbers decline. I want to thank Sean Wilson with DOTD, who will be putting some mobile signs at the state line welcoming our visitors back and letting them know the welcome centers are back open. We also will be extending our promotion at the state parks. If you book 3 nights, the 4th night free to our guests coming in from outside Louisiana with the code Welcome Back to get that 4th night free, and we're excited about that. Louisianans over the last several weeks safely really supported the museums and the state parks as we had asked them to do. The last 2 weekends, we saw over 20,000 visitors to our state parks. That hasn't happened since 2008. Incredible numbers, and everyone did it in a safe manner, so we're really proud of that. As we continue to monitor Travel USA, the numbers are pretty consistent that 82% of travelers are going to stay close to home within a drive market. So we're going to ask Louisianans to continue to support staycation, take a Louisiana road trip. You won't be disappointed as we venture out and market Louisiana across the state lines as well. We have also rolled out the Louisiana Lanyard Plan, where we are offering conventions and conferences that are looking to relocate next year or later this year an opportunity to look at Louisiana, and we'll give them Louisiana seafood prepared by a Louisiana chef, and we'll also give them a Louisiana band or musician. We just landed a national trucking conference to Lake Charles, and we were able to change their mind. They were going to Miami. So all of our tourism folks around the state are leaning forward to fill our calendar next year, and we're really excited about that. So I want to thank you again, Governor, your team. We're really excited about Phase 2, but we ask everyone to do it in a safe manner so we can quickly move to Phase 3. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
In terms of the conventions and conferences, what kind of requirements are on those conventions if they're coming to the state? Or when you're offering the seafood and the musician and all that to try and entice people here, are you also adding that they're going to have a bunch of restrictions to follow?
Well, most of them are the end of this year, early next year. We haven't had any large groups. We've had some groups of 10 and 20 that have rescheduled to come the end of this summer, but we haven't had any large groups that really, most of the conventions and groups are polling their members to see if they feel, one, if they feel safe traveling, and two, can they get the flights to where they want to go. So most of them, the trucking convention is next year. All the other events, a lot of sporting events that we're talking to for many of the ball fields around the state are the end of this year and early next year. And hopefully, we pray that we will be through the 3 phases and back operating pretty much to what we'll call the new normal. Yes, sir.
The 20,000 you said came in, the highest number in 12 years. What was the state park that existed most?
Grand Isle. Grand Isle had, I think, over 2,000 people. Incredible turnout down on the island. Yeah. Well, we had a great week. I tell you, the Louisiana people really responded to that special and booked every cabin campsite that we had available.
Is that helping with, I know y'all were losing revenue because obviously everything was shut down. How does that address some of the revenue shortfalls y'all have?
It's absolutely going to help. We've booked about a $3.2 million loss up to this point. But those revenues will absolutely help in going forward with what the trends look like in travel. RV sales are up 150%. Individual bike sales are up over 100%. People are going to, AVT, everybody's looking to do outside travel. So we're going to continue to push people to travel to the state parks, and hopefully they'll get out in those local communities and shop and eat in the local restaurants. So we see that as a trend for the next year. So we're going to take advantage of it. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the trucking convention in Lake Charles. Any other big ones, maybe in the capital city, that have already planned to come back, or where they're planning to go somewhere else?
Yeah, Paul Arrigo's working on about 9 right now. They don't want us giving out the names in case it doesn't happen, or someone don't get back and try to redirect that. But the way the trucking, when they polled their members and said, hey, we got to offer to change the convention to Louisiana. We get seafood, a jazz band, and what do you think? And 80% of the people said, let's go to Louisiana. So it's kind of a great enticement. Nobody can offer the great Louisiana seafood, music. So we're going to continue that, and hopefully later this year we'll have the calendar filled for Louisiana, and we'll bounce back a lot quicker than other states. Thank y'all so much. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor, I appreciate your work, and I'll tell you, he has spent a lot of time at GOSEP over the last several months, and just about all of our White House coronavirus task force calls, he's been there. We actually did have another call today, just before I came over to the Capitol about an hour ago, and I can tell you that the people in Washington have taken notice of the folks in Louisiana, the progress we've made on this public health emergency. And to tie it together with respect to Louisiana seafood and our parks, I wasn't one of those people that was able to get to Grand Isle. But I was a beneficiary because I had a really good friend who went to Grand Isle this past weekend. And he did some good on yellowfin tuna and brought me some, and I've been eating it every day since then, and it's been absolutely delicious. So I know what you're talking about when you say people want to come to Louisiana in order to enjoy our seafood. Okay, so we'll take a few questions from you all. Remember, I have Dr. Bu here if you've got questions about certain things related to testing. Yes, sir.
Governor, have you made any decisions about whether you're going to sign or veto both the tort reform bill and the bill that would change how you allocate CARES Act money to local governments?
No.
And we are still looking at the bills. I will have my first meeting with my staff later this afternoon to start the bill review. We have some time. We're looking at them. I'm not prepared to guess one way or another, and I certainly haven't made a decision. It's apparent that the bill that Senator Talbot authored managed to make absolutely nobody happy, which is sometimes the sign of a really good compromise, but I don't think that's what the issue is here. So we're going to take a good look at it, and we'll let you know as soon as we can. Yes, sir.
Governor, you mentioned at the beginning of the press conference all of the things going on right now between protests and demonstrations and pandemic. With a hurricane in the Gulf, can Louisianans handle more trauma?
Yeah, well, we can because we're tough and resilient people. Now, there's not a hurricane in the Gulf, and there's not a forecast that shows that it could be a hurricane when it makes landfall. Although I guess you can never rule out that a tropical storm could just inch over the strength necessary to become a Category 1 hurricane. But that's not what we're expecting right now. But I will tell you, I had an opportunity yesterday to speak to well over 1,000 pastors from all over Louisiana of every denomination. And one of the things I asked them yesterday was to make sure that they are praying for our state and for our people, because these are tough times. You know, we had a flourishing economy, one that was one of the fastest growing in the country and producing revenue about 10% ahead of the forecast, and then this public health emergency hit, and all of a sudden the economy's in trouble. People are not working. People who own businesses have seen their businesses decline and so forth. On top of all that, you've got the public health side of this, where we've had, as you saw from the slide, we've had almost 3,000 people now die and 41,000 test positive. On top of that, there's a lot more COVID out there than that, because somewhere between 25 and 40% of all cases are asymptomatic and largely untested. And then, you know, you just start adding all that together, and then you get to the very unfortunate, unnecessary, and illegal killing of Mr. George Floyd and the protests that have happened. But I do want to pause here and thank the people of Louisiana, because almost without exception, every single person who's shown up to protest and to demonstrate have done so in a way that is an appropriate expression of their concerns about this, and they're doing it in a way that's exercising the First Amendment rights in a way that's peaceful and nonviolent, and I happen to think that as a result, their voices are actually being heard better, and so I appreciate that. But you do have that going on, and now you've got the tropical storm Cristobal that is approaching Louisiana, that probably will make landfall Sunday and visit a lot of rain on us. But the people of Louisiana, in the short answer to your question, are very tough and resilient people. So it's not that I don't worry about them. I do, but I just know, and I'm always amazed at how good and decent, hardworking, and faithful our people are. And so I just believe we're going to be fine, but we are taking nothing for granted. We are working extremely hard to be prepared. We're working with every single region and parish in the state. We have FEMA embedded with us. We knew that as we went into hurricane season, we were doing so under a public health emergency. So we already have contingencies in place as to how you evacuate if you need to, how you do search and rescue if you need to, how do you shelter, how do you distribute commodities, all of these sorts of things. And I can't tell you it's all going to be absolutely perfect. I can only tell you our folks led by Colonel Wascom and GOSEP have been working extremely hard. And so I do invite people to pray, however, if I haven't done that yet, that we can pray for our people and for our state in times like this. I think prayer is awesome. Leo?
The National Hurricane Center says they bracketed this time, and it could be 24-hour earlier than what we just saw in the spring.
Yeah.
So it could get here Saturday. Is there, it could hit somewhere between Morgan City and Lafayette. Is there a plan in place to call for evacuation if need be, if it turns out that it's 5 mile an hour wind?
Well, I mean, there's always a plan to call for one, because we have that contingency. We know how to do it. We know what areas, depending upon what the threat is in terms of certain rivers or storm surge. You have inundation maps. All of this will be refined as we move forward. Right now, I'm not announcing an evacuation. I will tell you, the National Weather Service told us earlier today, just before I came over, that Saturday night they believe is the earliest that it could possibly hit. It's more likely Sunday. But when it hits, we know that there's going to be 40, and this is assuming that we don't have some weather system developed that sort of holds it in place, because when you get hit by a storm, you just want it to keep moving. But we will get at least 48 hours of very, very heavy rain out of it, possibly more if it slows down and stalls and just keeps dumping rain on the state of Louisiana. So everyone should be cognizant of this. Most people in Louisiana don't have to remember too far back. It was the spring and then August of 2016 when we had just tremendous flooding across a huge part of our state. So we're encouraging everybody to take this very serious, be as ready as they can be for it.
Excuse me, I went across the Chapel over the weekend. While it's not a flood stage, it's very full. It looks like it's pretty high.
Yeah. But what we know is the rivers, the Chapel River itself and the Mississippi River, are a few feet lower than they were, and I say a few, I think it may be two, lower than it was last year when the hurricane hit. And so that we know there's more capacity for rainfall. Yes, ma'am.
In terms of sheltering, if that's needed, what sort of plans have y'all developed for sheltering in light of COVID? Obviously, it seems like the mega shelter might not be the best situation.
Well, first of all, we do have plans that involve mega shelters as an option, and we have pre-positioned there some tents within the shelters so that people can have an area in the shelter that is sort of self-contained if that's necessary, and we pre-positioned those at our large shelters around the state. Your point is well taken. It's not the optimal time to do congregate shelters because people may come into the shelter with COVID-19. And so many weeks ago, GOSEP, led by Colonel Wascom, who just came in, started working through FEMA to get early approval for sheltering that we would typically put into these large congregate shelters, put more of those individuals and families in hotels and motel rooms, which happen to be available right now because of the public health emergency. You don't have a lot of those. Well, I should say you have a lot of vacancies and so forth. And so we have that option. Another challenge we have is, quite frankly, the American Red Cross volunteers aren't going to be available to us as they normally are, because many of those volunteers are in that vulnerable age category with respect to COVID-19. And then the last real hurdle that we have is we typically have reciprocal agreements with other states to shelter some portion of our population. And I'm not talking about all of this as it relates to this weekend, but we have a long hurricane season coming up, where if we have to evacuate a large segment of our population, other states will take the individuals in. Well, we're still working through that because in a public health emergency, as you can imagine, just like we don't want to do congregate sheltering here, they don't want to do congregate sheltering of our people in their states either. And so we're having to work through all of that, and we're making good progress. And again, as it relates to this weekend, we are not announcing any evacuations. We're not announcing any shelters, but if that becomes necessary, we certainly will. Jim, did you have anything you want to add to that?
No, sir. I think you covered it. I was just remarking to Christina, you could be a great FEMA administrator.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But no, thank you.
Governor, I think on Monday you were about the protests. You mentioned you were working with the federal government as far as the preparations for these protests. Can you talk more about what agencies you're working with, what exactly the federal government is telling you when preparing for these protests?
Well, I can't tell you exactly what they're telling me because the information that we get is and that's primarily the assistance that we're talking about, is the sharing of information. And so we have federal partners in law enforcement who will share information with the state police, with local chiefs of police and sheriff's offices and that sort of thing, if they have specific credible information that indicates that there could be a problem associated with a particular protest or demonstration, what to look for and that sort of thing. Quite frankly, we haven't had very much of that in Louisiana, and so with the information we've been getting from our federal partners here in Louisiana has been very generic in nature, things that they're seeing in other states that we might want to be prepared for. But that's really the type of assistance that I was referring to.
Do you expect to mobilize the National Guard in response to protests here?
You know, I don't expect to. Obviously, that remains an option for me as it is for other governors. What I expect is that we will continue to see peaceful, nonviolent demonstrations and protests where people properly exercise their First Amendment rights. That's what we have seen in Louisiana up to today, and I don't expect that that's going to change. I will tell you, our law enforcement is doing a really good job of working with the individuals who are organizing the protests and demonstrations and the individuals who are showing up. You see, I think, a lot more dialogue happening and so forth, and it's not the really raw, contentious nature that you sometimes see. And I'm not saying there isn't some of that in Louisiana with respect to these demonstrations and protests, but we're seeing less of that and a lot more dialogue and communication, which I actually think is helpful. Yes, sir.
Obviously, a lot of immediate things taking precedent. I kind of want to go back to the tourism aspect that Lieutenant Governor Nungesser brought, just because it is such a huge part of the state's economy and it's taken a hit over the past several months. Is there any fear or cautiousness that it may be hard to persuade people to, start coming back here? Is it going to be harder than other states who weren't hit as hard as COVID and kind of getting back to where the state was pre-COVID?
Well, first of all, I absolutely believe we're going to get back to where we were before COVID. And I say that because Louisiana is so special, so unique in the United States of America that this is where people want to be. And as soon as they feel safe coming, they're going to come back. And with the things that we're seeing out of the business community, the faith community, individuals, the local elected officials around the state of Louisiana, I just believe people are going to feel safe coming back. Don't know exactly when that's going to be. We are going to have a new normal for some period of time. But you all can remember in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and there were people saying, "Oh, New Orleans is never coming back. Louisiana's just been decimated, and there's no return from that." Our people are much more resilient than that, and our state is more special and more unique, and so I always believe we're going to come back, and I think it'll happen sooner and bigger than other people think. But I also know that it's going to be conditioned upon several things that we're just not in control of. When is that vaccination available? And what does the virus do between now and then? And anybody who tells you they know, they're guessing. And I don't want to guess about when it's going to happen, but I will absolutely tell you that it's going to happen, and Louisiana will be back.
Last one, maybe?
Yes, sir.
I understand that some eviction court proceedings can resume fairly soon under phase 2. Does the state have a plan to extend any deadlines or provide any state assistance to avoid an evictions crisis when things begin to ease up?
Yeah, well, we are working on that, and as you will recall, we suspended evictions, but we didn't suspend, and you can't suspend the obligation to pay rent. And I know the hardship many people have endured and that they faced, and they don't have the funds available to them that they would normally have. I do encourage all of these individuals to work with their landlords to try to work through that and come up with a plan to catch up and so forth. We are working right now in my office with the Office of Community Development, Louisiana Housing Corporation, the Division of Administration, and the Governor's Office to try to identify funding that we could make available for a renter's assistance program. I think it's important that we do that. I don't have an announcement for you at this moment, but it is something that we are looking at, and as you know from legislation that just recently moved through the regular session, the CARES Act money is largely spoken for, and so we're looking at other funding that we may have available, but we're also looking at measures that Congress is still considering, because I do believe that there's at least one more piece of legislation that will move through Congress that will make funding available to states and local governments, and we have to see how much and what the strings are and what the intended purpose for those funds are to see if we might be able to use them. But I can tell you we are actively working on this issue. It's not as easy for a state like Louisiana that was so adversely impacted by the public health emergency, or has been, as other states that were less impacted, because the formula allocated money, primarily based on population. And so you have some states out there that didn't have anywhere near our per capita cases. They didn't have our expenditures, and they haven't had the economic consequences that we have had, but yet they may have gotten as much or more funding. And so it's a little bit more challenging here in Louisiana, but we do understand the importance of such a program, and we're trying to find out whether we can stand one up. And we're going to obviously work with the legislature in that regard as well. So I want to thank you again for coming out. I'm going to ask you to do what you can to keep the citizenry informed between now and when Cristobal makes landfall, so that everybody knows what to expect. They're not surprised, and that they have done their very best to prepare for the arrival of this tropical storm. We will be speaking to you all again on Friday at 2:30, and so we should have an updated forecast at that time, and other information to share with you all on the day that we go to phase 2. And that was one of the things that the Vice President remarked on today during the call, was that he pointed out the fact that Louisiana would be going to phase 2, and how broadly that had been applied across the state of Louisiana in terms of the various types of businesses and entities who are impacted. He asked me again yesterday in a phone call to express to the people of Louisiana his appreciation and the President's appreciation for the work that's been done here to flatten the curve and to really make a positive difference on the trajectory as it relates to COVID-19 and hospitalizations, because as you know, a little over 2 months ago, we were headed in a very, very bad direction. So thank you all. I'll see you in 2 days.
And that was Governor John Bel Edwards wrapping up his daily update on the coronavirus. Also joining him today was Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, bringing an update for tourism here in the state as we continue into phase 2 on Friday. We'll have all the details from today's press conference in our newscast coming up tonight at 5 and 6.